Thanks for joining us today with another installment of the Amicus Live series. This roundtable is focused on the topic of effective team collaboration. We're joined today by Christopher Klint, tech lead over at Telness Tech, Sotiris Alfonsos, tech lead over at Banked, Mehrnoosh Kashani, tech lead over at Develop Diverse, and Vladislav Stepanov, tech lead over at Miro. So quite a broad question just to kick off with, guys. What does effective team collaboration look like to you? Sotiris, I'll start with you. You're clockwise to me.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's. I mean, it can have different meanings, and I think there's a very lot to say on the topic. I think maybe one of the most important things is just for people not hesitating to reach out to colleagues, people not hesitating to ask questions. And basically that goes from developing a feature to collecting the requirements. So it goes on the entire flow of basically building something new. And I think if you have this mentality of going out and asking people, and if you feel comfortable doing that as well, I think that can definitely help and point to the right direction at least.
Perfect. Mehrnoosh?
For me, good collaboration means that in a team we can leverage each other's strengths and cover up for each other weaknesses. So basically, in terms of technical being good collaboration between technical teams, it means that we can use each other's skills in the best possible way to create the best possible outcome. And also at the same time, I think that it's not just about the product we are developing. I mean, not just the engineering job, but also creating a pleasant environment for everyone. Because we spend most of our lives actually in the workplace, at least a big chunk of it in workplace. So.
Yeah. Perfect. Christopher, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think both very good points, especially regarding the communication. I mean, especially like this is something we've experienced with COVID, right? Where everyone's working remotely and now people are coming back and some are doing a little bit more hybrid as well. That communication is really key and clear communication, whether that's asynchronous or if that's in a meeting, making sure that meetings actually have agendas and not just, feeling our way through it, right? We want to make sure it's efficient, but at the same time, you don't want to take too much from the culture. And that's something that Mehrnoosh, that you really talked about and I resonated with like, you want to create the culture that you want. And that can be done in several different ways, for example, we try to promote the knowledge sharing. And we have knowledge sharing forums that we do every other week here at Telness Tech. So it's like, you want everyone to feel involved, and yet you want to also bring forward the ones that are experts in their field that can help other ones in the team. Because we are really in this together and really trying to build a product that resonates with our customers. And how better way to do that than with a great culture. So yeah, I would say those are my points to add on the subject.
Perfect. Great points there as well. And Vlad, over to you.
Yeah, I basically agree with everything that was said, and especially communication. Like, communication is really the key. You want to have good, open communication where everybody trusts each other and people feel comfortable speaking up, people feel comfortable sharing their opinions and asking for help as well. It could happen that maybe somebody doesn't know something and they need some help. And if you have strong, again, open communications based on trust, people can ask for help. People can, I don't know, voice out their opinions or ideas. And also it's really important, some sort of shared sense of purpose, like, shared values, shared goal that the team goes towards to. But again, like everybody said, really good points.
Yeah, do you think that relates to the culture then, maybe? Because all of your points sort of circle around the topic of culture. Communication is obviously a big part of that. Do you think we can remove effective team collaboration from that? Should that be a priority of culture? How does that relate? Vlad, again to you, maybe?
Yeah, culture. Culture is a huge thing of, again, effective collaboration. Is like, again, you have increased productivity when there's like a great culture. People, again, we're talking about communication, seamless communication, open communication. People communicate with each other, people communicate within team well, and you have increased productivity as the outcome of this. You have better creativity. People, again, come together, brainstorm ideas all together openly, and then come up with great solutions. Like, look at Miro, for example, like a really great product, really great culture, really, really open communications. And I'm sure a lot of great companies, great products usually require like this, again, great culture, open communications, etc.
Perfect. Anybody else?
Yeah, that's a really good. I think generally the culture can either be either your friend or the enemy in many topics, and that one I think is one of those things where either it comes intuitively in a way to people to just enforce all that and promote team collaboration, or they prefer to work in another way, and you have to make some changes in a way. You have to push them to a nice direction or to a better direction, or sort of guide them to that better practices and to promoting that team collaboration.
Perfect.
Yeah, that's a good point. If I can just hop on that, Sotiris, like, especially what you meant, like your friend or your enemy, like to take an active decision on what your culture is, because a lot of culture is kind of just, day to day, it comes to you, it's your processes, and a culture can be created just by, waking up one day and say, oh, we do this because we've always done it like this. So it's also mapping out, where do we want to be with our culture? Is this the culture that we want? Do we want to move forward with it, or what sort of changes do we need to implement? And then so also like identifying, what kind of processes do we actually need to go the extra mile to make sure that we have the culture that we actually want, and taking an active decision behind it. So that was a very good point with the friend versus enemy analogy.
Amazing. Mehrnoosh?
Yeah, I want to add something to what Christopher said. And, actually, when you are working, I think many companies right now working, their employees are some hybrid, some completely remote from different countries. And when we want to create a collaborative culture in a team, it's adds to complexity that we are going to work with people that they come from different backgrounds, and you cannot find a way that works for everyone the same. So you should, when you are trying to create a better working culture or better working collaboration inside the team, you should take into account that different people maybe have very different backgrounds, and you should consider it in the process. So it's not at all. It's not an easy thing that we are doing actually in general, as because I think that Tech Lead has the main role to creating this kind of collaboration inside the team, and it's not at all. It's not an easy job.
One of the questions I wanted to ask later on focused a bit more on diversity and the role that has in collaboration. So we'll come back to that one definitely. And in a bit more of a broader sense, what are the benefits of effective team collaboration, particularly in tech? That's quite a broad question, but I guess you'll have some good answers for that. So Sotiris, you look like you have something to say there.
Yeah, I'm trying to just pick one of the things that come to mind, just the most important one. I guess the first thing that jumps to mind is knowledge and best practice sharing. I think that's the one that stands out for me. And if you have an open culture, and if you have effective collaboration between your team, inside your team, but between the teams in your organization as well, you can easily share and transmit that knowledge cross teams, cross team members, and then you can have, let's say, a unified approach and a certain way of doing things all together as a one, instead of people working in silos or in ivory towers, trying different approaches, working in different ways. You have more of a holistic approach to problems. I think that's the one that stands out for me.
Perfect. Mehrnoosh?
So I think the most the things that comes after good collaboration is better product quality. So I think that an effective collaboration leads to more creativity, more innovation, better decision making, better share of responsibility, and all of them actually lead to delivering a better product to the customer, of course.
Amazing. Vlad?
Yeah, really great points, actually. I agree that, again, great collaboration, great effective collaboration especially, leads to great products. We can also think about more personal things, like higher job satisfaction. If there is effective collaboration, people are more comfortable, probably and most likely on the team, and they are more satisfied with their job. Also, we can talk about enhanced creativity again, like better creativity. People, again, open up to bring up their own opinions, not afraid of bring those opinions up. And you can have, again, better creativity because of this, and better innovation as well. Nowadays, innovation, everybody is talking about innovation, AI, and if you have effective team collaboration, it's definitely going to help that.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, actually. Like, you can imagine if you have the freedom to be more creative, the product's better, etc., you're going to have higher job satisfaction. You're going to be happier in the job ultimately. Yeah. Christopher?
Yeah, very good points from everyone. I think I can add from a different perspective of like effective team collaboration. Once you have that in place, another benefit you can get is to have autonomous team members. And what I mean by that is you have these processes, whether it's pair programming, knowledge sharing, creativity was mentioned as well. And that can lead to developers, especially in the teams, feeling more autonomous and can handle more issues going forward without having, trying themselves, instead of having to constantly ask for help. So I think that is also a positive effect, because you grow that self-confidence in the team and saying that, like, okay, I know because we've had these knowledge sharing sessions, or I paired with this person, that, okay, I'm supposed to do A, B, and C. So I think that can also be another benefit from this, effective team collaboration.
Perfect. Based on all of the areas we've covered there, to me, it seems culture is a really important factor. And without that culture in place, where there are more open-minded people, maybe open-minded managers, it doesn't seem like you're really going to get the environment where collaboration is truly possible, just based on what you guys have said there. So what other limitations would you say there are to effective team collaboration? Take it away, anyone.
Yeah, I can think of, like, under communication and, well, not even communication, under collaboration and over collaboration. Let's say over collaboration, when teams are not, or team members are not aligned on the goals, are not aligned like on what's going on, and the team culture is all over the place. You usually end up with a lot of meetings just to talk about the same points, just to bring everybody on the page. And a lot of discussions are going to be counterproductive in the end. And under communication or under collaboration is when, again, people are not probably comfortable speaking up, or not comfortable bringing their own ideas. And then probably, if we're talking about innovations, for example, that's probably not going to happen when people are just afraid of speaking. And again, it's under collaboration.
Definitely. What about anybody else? Sotiris, you have something to say there again?
Yeah, the thing that was a really good point, actually. It really resonates. And one more thing that I was thinking on top of that, it might be controversial, but I think effective team collaboration and trying to promote collaboration in different ways is beneficial in the long run, but in the short term, it decreases maybe the team's output in a way. So let's say by putting 2 developers per programming a problem means that you have 2 resources focusing on one thing instead of having 1 developer focusing on one problem and the other one in another one, and pushing twice the amount of work that you could. But that's more of a short-term thing. I think in the long run, it can really benefit an organization, because then in the long run, you have all the benefits that we previously described.
Just like an investment, really.
Sort of, in a way, yeah. And you can have higher management. I had this conversation in the past where they really, and they can contradict you on that if they want immediate deliverables and if they want value from the company right now, they might push against all of those things that you want to do to promote collaboration, because you want to deliver faster. So you want to just pick up a feature, develop that feature, push that feature to production, and then you have to cut some corners there.
Yeah, perfect. Mehrnoosh?
So you probably see from me nodding several times that is actually the thing that I have experienced many times, that the higher level managers actually sometimes sees this as a waste of energy or waste of resources. So, for example, Christopher mentions that they do have some sort of knowledge sharing meetings, right? So sometimes the company sees this kind of activities as okay, but it's not. They don't understand how the collaboration inside development teams help actually to a better product and more value for the company. So they sometimes see it as some sort of waste of resources. And on the other hand, I also have seen that sometimes collaboration becomes the goal, but by itself. I mean, you see that sometimes we miss the part of effective, that's effective part of collaboration, and we just do the long meetings and things like that for the sake of collaboration. I mean, we should find a balance between not having good collaboration and too much time wasting on communication.
How would you measure effective collaboration compared to ineffective collaboration, in your opinion?
So it's a really tough question, but for me, it boils down to how much it is in long run and short run. How much it brings value to the product. So if you find out that I mean, that's like a compass that our product, or the strategy of the company is like a compass that you should look at it and adjust the team, adjust everything actually with that strategy. So for me, when I find out that's the way I try to convince the company that we need, for example, this amount of time to be spent on knowledge sharing, pair programming, and stuff like that. The way I try to explain for them how much in the long run this adds value to the company. And if I wanted to propose to limit this amount of time to my team, I also use the same the same explanation for them. That's okay. This amount of time we are spending on brainstorming, discussing things, different things, and this stuff is not bringing added value to the table.
Okay, interesting. And Christopher, what I didn't actually ask you, to be fair, what would you say are the limitations to effective team collaboration?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think what I can add there is a little bit what Manoush talked about as well with balance, and to find that balance because I mean the ultimate team collaboration is just mob programming. The whole team is doing, the same project, and everybody is sharing knowledge at one time. We all know that that's not, productive. So it needs to be a sort of balance between, okay, is this a one-off that just needs to be shipped to make somebody happy and then just give it to one developer? If it's something that's, if we know, for example, this is a process that we have ongoing internally, like looking at, code ownership. Where are our areas of our code that maybe one person knows or no one knows, and or they're on parental leave or something like that, and sort of mapping these areas to try and see, okay, so we can definitely invest more knowledge sharing here so that if, we talk about, someone gets hit by a bus, what happens then, right? So you want to minimize those factors while also being able to actually ship and deliver code, but also quality code. And that's also, a kind of benefit or a reasoning for doing pair programming. You have two sets of eyes. You have someone to talk to discuss with. Yeah, and that's a little bit about measuring too. It's very hard to measure, how much team collaboration is needed and when can we stop, how much is too much. And and I think that it's a balance again, and it's, quality of code. Are we shipping when we have been saying that we are going to ship, or are there blockers in our road? So it's a very holistic review of the situation, I would say.
Interesting, great stuff. Some really interesting points there as well. Can see there's quite a bit of consensus, to be fair, and there was a few mentions of maybe other managers, people maybe higher up or above you that have an impact on team collaboration. So I'm interested to, you're all, tech leads. What's the role of the tech lead in particular, do you think, in facilitating team collaboration? You have a very specific role within the organization when it comes to the direction of the team. Maybe give me an idea of what it's like for the tech lead, how that intersects with maybe the managers. Obviously, you don't have to name any names or any companies you may have worked at, but just to give me a flavor of your experiences with that. Sotiris, again, clockwise from me.
That's a really good question, but I wasn't thinking any interactions with higher management. I was thinking as a whole, how can you as a tech lead promote that in the organization and in the team? But when it comes to higher management, I think it's not an easy thing that you can come up with a document and just show them the document that they will immediately agree. I think one of the things that you can do is just explaining and providing arguments of why it can help and where it can benefit the organization. But there is up to a certain point where we can get. Apart from that, it's the business value that it brings and how fast it has to be there for the organization. So it's only that much that you can do, only so much that you can do when it comes to management. As a whole, though, I think it was mentioned also before, and I think getting and seeing the culture that you currently have in the company and working around that and trying to not force people to do things, but see where people feel comfortable and try to promote them further in that direction. So I think that's a very important thing that you can, let's say, guide as a tech lead. And yeah, overall, I think if you try doing different things, the team will eventually decide which ones are nice for the team or not good for the team, and they will eventually promote the ones that just fit the team and fit the culture of the company. So the good things that you choose to do will stand out and they will be adopted in a way. So I think, that's one thing I would say there.
Perfect. Christopher?
Yeah, I think to add on that also, not even if we look from the opposite direction and let's say, okay, who are we, who are team members, who are we, doing our one-to-ones with, interacting with on a daily basis, more or less, that to bring forth and sort of like collecting their sort of, wants and wishes and kind of like summarizing them in order to get a clear picture of like, okay, so this is actually from an individual level, this is where most of the developers are talking like, oh, we're missing some end-to-end tests. We need to actually work on this. Can we get that prioritized? And also, that was a very good point from Sotiris when he was talking about coaching. Because I mean, as a developer, you don't want to stay in one place. You want to learn, you want to develop, and to actually be a coach on that journey and say, okay, let's where do you want to be, next year, in the coming months? What sort of projects can we implement together? I think that also, encourages both collaboration, but also to get those wants and wishes from the individuals, so that you're not just listening to one side of the story, so to speak, from higher management. So that's what I wanted to add.
Mm-hmm. Fascinating. And Mehrnoosh, what would you say there?
So, on role of the tech lead in this whole subject, I think that I think that if the tech lead don't take care of creating effective collaboration culture inside the team, no one else is gonna do that, because of course it's only based on my experience, but so the product team, the higher management, they do care only about the product and the delivery and making more sales and things like that. And at the other hand, less senior or more junior developers, they are more into, their mind is more busy with learning technical stuff, and they're mostly challenged by the technical part of the process. So actually no one else remains to take care of things like the collaboration and the processes, and so it's the whole responsibility of the tech lead. And as Christopher said, for example, for me, it is very important I think also the tech lead is responsible for it, is that to find and see talents inside the team and try to help people to flourish their talents, because as a more senior person, you have more holistic view of the possibilities of talents, of skills, and you can find out something inside some of the developers inside team that maybe they even themselves do not have, they're not aware of their own talents. So I think these are some responsibilities that only a tech lead can do them.
Yeah, fascinating. It's a great answer. Vlad, what would you say there?
Yeah, I think we mentioned a few interesting points. Like one of them is communication with higher management, how teams communicate, how tech leads communicate, and it really depends on kinds of organization. There are top-down organizations or bottom-up organizations, how they build. So let's say there's bottom-up, meaning that teams responsible for deciding on goals, making some decisions, some important decisions, then it's usually up to tech lead or engineering manager to set those goals, to bring the team together to decide on the goals and then propagate those goals. If it is top-bottom, then it's the other way around. Then again, tech lead needs to communicate with the higher management and to align the whole team on the goals of the organization and try to make sure that team goals, team needs are also met. Another interesting thing that we mentioned is mentoring and helping team members to grow. And there are so many ways to do this. Another thing is, let's say some team members can be stuck, kind of problems, and it's up to the tech lead to remove these obstacles, or at least to help to remove these obstacles.
Interesting. So what I'm gathering there is the tech lead is in a really interesting and privileged position as being in between management, decision makers, business stakeholders, and the engineers, the developers that are on the front line. So it's actually a really important position for disseminating and spreading the collaborative culture, basically. One thing we've not really touched on is, what do we think are the most negative factors, do we think, for having collaboration and this kind of culture that we're looking to grow? What are the biggest blockers on that? Feel free to jump in, anyone. It's quite a tough.
Yeah, biggest blockers there. I think I mean, one thing I can mention is I would say it's trying new things. I mean, it's hard to know what's going to fit with everyone. You want to try and create a culture, like we mentioned previously, and make sure that it's inclusive and also room so the individual can, preferences and backgrounds can also flourish. But at the same time, you kind of have to test things out, right? You're going to have to start a process and then evaluate that process. So I think the biggest blockers are, is it going to work? I would say, from my perspective, of like trying new things and also seeing, the reactions in the team. And this is such a long-term process. It's not something that you can just test once and say, okay, yeah, this is really good, let's continue that, unless it's like really bad or there's people with a lot of opinions on it. But I think that it's that. And then I would also say another blocker is probably time. There's only so much time in a day. There's only so much you want to do. And you wish that you can do everything for your team, but unfortunately you can't. So you really have to prioritize what's going to get the most value, both for the team and for, for the business. So yeah, that's my two blockers: time and trying to figure out what's right or wrong.
Just that trade-off between resources and delivering effective products, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what would you say there, Vlad?
Yeah, I totally agree. Like, it is really, again, about trying to understand what's going to work for the team, trying to set up the right processes that's going to work for the team. It is really important to seek feedback, from the team, maybe even from other teams, what was best for the team, and trying to improve over and over again, iteratively, so that team works well and there's really effective collaborations going on. But again, it is a process on its own.
Fascinating. How much do you think the tech lead can sort of overcome these negative factors? Do you think that's how much an impact do you think you can have on limiting and mitigating these negative factors? Or do you think that maybe, like we've discussed before, organizational values, higher managers, do they have more of an impact? What would we say?
Yeah, it really depends on the organization, like the organizational culture. In small startups, usually teams, well, maybe not usually, but teams have a lot of freedom and they can set rules, they can set goals, etc. In big organizations and corporations, usually have like a very well-defined goals and like the culture in general, and you have to follow those things. So it really depends on the organization. But let's say if it is a startup, then you usually have a lot of freedom. And yeah, you just have to experiment. You have to figure out what's going to work for you, what's going to work for the team, what's going to work for the company, and how to deliver the products as effectively as possible, and still make sure that the team is happy.
Perfect. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add to that?
Yeah, actually, if I have time, I really like to add this. So,
Hey, just slightly quiet there, Mehrnoosh. Sorry, your microphone's just
okay. So what I want to add is that he mentioned the situation of a company that either it's a startup or a big company, and I actually have the complete opposite experience, and it's really interesting for me, because as much as for example in a startup we have more freedom to shape the culture as the way we want, but actually at the same time we are under pressure of delivering product as soon as possible. So and in a bigger company, on contrary, we have more time to work on our culture or on improving our processes. So it's very interesting thing that, you know, the situation of company can be, you know, add to the difficulty, or as I said, you know, for example, in his experience, it was actually helping to create a better culture, right? That give the developers the freedom to create a better culture. So it's a really important factor. That's the situation of the company. And I also want to add that sometimes, as I said, people with different backgrounds, it is not easy to create a common culture when you are working with people from different backgrounds. So I, for example, find it very hard to help developers with more introverts, more quiet and calm, you know, kind of personality to share their ideas, speak up in meetings. You know, there's people that maybe for some reason feel so much insecure, although they are very skilled in their jobs, but feel so much insecure that they cannot participate or speak up in meetings. So finding a way to, you know, involve those kind of people into you know, the collaboration is also a challenge.
Very interesting. That was actually a question I was going to touch on slightly later on, was about how cultural factors, cultural backgrounds can maybe affect collaboration and how you guys manage that as tech leads. But it makes sense to touch on it now, really. How do we manage those? How is collaboration affected by maybe we all, you know, you all work in companies that have staff members from across the world, various different cultures, different languages, etc., different backgrounds. How is it affected by cultural factors, would we say? Feel free to jump in, anyone.
Yeah, so we've seen it a lot lately, and I've seen it with my past companies as well, that because we are so, we have people from all around the world, either working in a remote setup or coming to the office, living in the same country, but people have different backgrounds, and people bring different ways of working and different preferences in the way of working. I think important things on that are to just try to understand where people feel comfortable and where people don't feel comfortable. I think there's even specific trainings that you can do where you can sign up your entire team and you go through that training, and it gives you basically where each member feels comfortable, where each member doesn't feel comfortable. So you know how to approach your colleagues within your team and within your company, how you should approach, how you should raise concerns, give them feedback and all that. So I think that really helps as well with collaboration, to see where different people have preference and what they want to do, basically. Yeah,
amazing. Great answer. Anybody else?
Yeah, I can jump in and add, like, based on that, with, you know, finding out where people are very comfortable, and also a little bit what you said, Mehrnoosh, about, you know, for example, introverts maybe will be a little bit more quiet during meetings and not share ideas. I would say that that's, you know, a very tough challenge, because, I mean, if you have just the same people dominating the conversation, it doesn't feel like we're getting, you know, a holistic view of, okay, what is exactly the issue or whatever we're discussing. I mean, there's some things you can try to do that, you know, break out into smaller groups, 2 or 3, you know, whiteboard together, or even try and break out into teams sessions, breakout rooms, and then everyone talks like 5 minutes, and then you come back, and then you like gather the ideas. So there are ways you can try and like make sure that everyone's voice is heard, but of course, I mean, it is an uphill battle trying to make sure that everyone's voice is heard. So I think going back to like one-to-ones, you know, that's an important time where it's just you and someone else, and you really want them to open up to you, because if they don't open up there, then you really aren't gonna, you know, figure out, you know, okay, what is actually going on, or how do you actually feel? So there's some ways around it, but it is a challenge, definitely.
Perfect. Mehrnoosh?
I just want to give you 2 examples of my experience that was really challenging, and one was that once I used to work with a person that came from a culture that on that specific country, it was very if you defy or criticize the idea that come from higher management, it has really bad consequences. Yeah, and I had a very hard time to make that person feel safe to speak up and criticize or share his ideas with the rest of the team, because he thought that, okay, I'm in a position developer, I don't have right to, for example, question the decision that has been made by another part of the company. And one another example that I really find fascinating was that, okay, I really, as a person, I really enjoy pair programming, and I think that's it's the best way to be creative and see a problem from at least 2 different point of view, right? But I also worked with a person that he feel uncomfortable even if you approach his desk. So he prefer to, even for day-to-day communication, he prefer to be use Microsoft Teams, or this kind of channel of communication, Slack channels, this kind. So I just want to say that you sometimes you have a very big challenge because you are working in a team with a different personalities, different backgrounds.
So it must draw on your people management skills as tech leads, and if you have introverts in the team that don't necessarily handle the direct collaboration and idea sharing, so that is a significant challenge, isn't it, for particularly for the information sharing culture that you're looking to create. Interesting. What would you say there, Vlad?
Yeah, actually, I think we bring up a really good point about like different communication styles. Like again, some people like to speak a lot, maybe some people don't like to speak a lot, and it's not the problem with people. It's just different people, maybe even just different. They coming from different backgrounds, different cultures, etc. So you don't need to try to change the people, but you need to try to accommodate for them. And it's not only communication, it can be anything. People can have different views, different ideas, etc. You just need to promote this kind of cultural awareness in the team. And yeah, one of the ways obviously is training. A lot of companies nowadays provide these cultural trainings so that everybody on the team understands, like, yeah, this is okay, and we should just respect other people, listen to them, and it is okay that some people are different from us. So again, training's a really big thing.
Yeah, fascinating.
Just to add a bit on that one, since we spoke about culture already, I think what also is very important is your early steps in your career as well. Those shape quite a lot the developer that you end up becoming 5, 6, 10 years down the road. So I think especially the 3, 4 first years and the mentors that you have next to you in those years, they can really help you either develop more, let's say, collaborative approaches, or they can lead you to being more of a person that prefers to work alone. So I think those can also shape you into the developer that you become, on top of the cultural things that we already mentioned.
Amazing. Great stuff, great answers. And you touched just on your answer at the beginning there, Sotiris, you touched on maybe the role of remote work, hybrid work, and the unique challenges that offers now, as so many people do work in a remote and hybrid sense. How do you manage that as a tech lead? If you have a fully remote team, some of you may do, or you work hybridly, how do you maintain that effective collaboration?
So I think that has added new challenges on top of the really existing ones, if I may. And it's when you were at the office, you used to have, I don't know, the water cooler discussion, or you wanted to grab a coffee and you would see your colleague, you would talk, you had your team next to you. So you had some conversations and some of the information flowing inherently within the team. But now working from home, I have been working from home for 2-3 years now. And you don't have all those means that you used to have to have that communication. So you need to find new ways. One way I have found, and I really enjoy, but it's a bit controversial as well, is we have an ongoing call within the team, and whoever has time or whoever doesn't have a lot of meetings or too much work, they go and they hang out in that call. And if people want to talk, if they want to share something, if they want to ask something, they just jump on that call and they start talking. So it's a call free for all that everyone can join. So I find that very effective to bring people together, talk about everyday things, but also talk about problems that they have with their work.
That's a really cool idea. Has anybody else come across that before, or have anything else to say to that?
Yeah, I would say I'll just add like expectations, like, you know, setting expectations for availability is a really important thing when people working remotely. Especially it was I feel like a big problem when the pandemic started and a lot of people started working remotely, and they just kind of not maybe forgot, but kind of just fell out of it. Like, what's the working hours? When you go to the office, you know, your working hours, like when you just, I don't know, working in the office, and when you work out, this is like the end of your work day. But when you work remotely, when you work from home, there is no clear separation. When the work starts, when the work ends, what is work, what is personal life. So you really need to set this kind of clear expectations, clear boundaries. Another thing is communication, more like even team building, I would say. When working in person, it is really easy to build a team. You can just go, I don't know, to a bar after work. But when people working remotely, you cannot do these things. And you need to find other ways to have this team build, to build teams, basically, to foster collaboration, as we spoke before. It is much more challenging.
Interesting. Christopher?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what's been said before as well, with, you know, definitely challenges to team building, and also, you know, coming up with, you know, different team building ideas for, I mean, we've had some suggestions of, like, you know, we should just have a meeting, just like a fika, or it's called a fika in Swedish, but you just have a coffee break or something like that, of just, you know, just an opportunity to chat. We've also had in the past, like, on Wednesdays, there are magic mornings where it's like you're not talking about work, but it's like culture building. So either you'll do like some workshop or something like that in teams, do a breakout session, and then come back. So it's a little bit like trying to give those opportunities of that small talk, of that chit chat. And I think it really is the small things, right? I mean, you can kind of add these like small elements maybe in your stand-ups or things like that. We have a thing where one of our colleagues always says "Go team" in the morning, and then it's such a like a mood booster, because you can't really do it all at the same time because it's remote, or it's like singing "Happy Birthday" at the same time. It doesn't work on Teams, but it's such like those small things, you feel more as a team and you just as a collective. So yeah, it's such a challenge, but like those small wins and really trying to maximize those, and providing opportunities for those to flourish more and more, I would say. Yeah.
Great. Mehrnoosh?
So, you know, all the good things have been said. Actually, yes, I'm really I really feel that, you know, this with the asynchronous way of working and remote way of working, we lose the possibility of team building, or at least we lose the possibility of creating that sort of intimacy between you know, team members. So I really find it I really miss it, actually, when I'm working with people who are working remotely, and you feel that, okay, if that person was working in the office you could create a better relationship, better friendship, even outside of the work, because these human interactions actually, it's not just something for us. It actually has effect on our efficiency, productivity, because when you are happier, when you are working with your friends, of course you are more productive. So and another problem that's actually is that it's not only remote working. People are working in different time zones. So sometimes you should foresee beforehand the things that you may need to communicate with someone, because otherwise you should wait, for example, 12 hours until their time that you can, if for example one of the team members lives in America, or North America country or South America countries, then you should wait almost 8-9 hours to get to communicate with them. So it creates the necessity of foreseeing some questions that you are may want to ask, some sort of communication you need to do with them. So
yeah, perfect. Again, great answers. A lot of agreement, a lot of overlap in everyone's experiences, I must say. I'm just going to touch on a topic that is quite important. It comes up a lot in terms of team structure and trying to get the best talent. It's very important in recruitment as well. And that's the topic of diversity, basically. And what is the role of diversity in creating a collaborative team? What would we say? Feel free to take it away, anyone.
One thing that would jump to mind immediately is just different opinions and different perspectives on things.
Yeah.
The more wide the group is from different backgrounds, the more diversity is, basically the more different opinions you are going to see, instead of if you had a specific group that is, I don't know, same culture, same country, same background, you would only see one way forward and you wouldn't see the alternatives that you get with the diversity.
Perfect. Mehrnoosh?
So I think that diversity can be, both positive and negative impact, have both positive. So the positive impact, as I said, is actually, it creates a different point of views. You can use more overall, more, you have more information, more background, more point of views in a team, but at the same time it creates, it's the collaboration sometimes gets more hard. So it's like any other engineering thing, it has its pros and cons, right? For me, one of very fascinating things that was the consequence of diversity in team is that it creates a better place for another person to join to the team. So I mean, a very homogeneous kind of team, sometimes it's hard for a newcomer to get blended with them. So especially if that newcomer is a bit different than the culture that people that are currently in the team. But if you have a more diverse team, then you actually open the door for other people to join easily, and easily become a part of the team, and easily become become productive faster.
Yeah, fascinating. Vlad?
Yeah, I agree with this point that when there is like more variety of the people, of cultures, it kind of makes the team more welcoming to other people. When you come in with the team and you see that there are all kinds of people and not everybody is the same kind of person that we have to fit in. And there are obviously challenges, yes, like again, we were talking about different backgrounds, different cultures, different viewpoints, and you would need to to manage to solve or at least to negate some of these problems. Again, trainings and just promoting this awareness of different cultures is very important. But the benefits are really great. We were talking also about innovation. When people come from different backgrounds, they have very different ideas, and you can probably come up with a really great product that's also going to fit for a wider group of people. Again, because you have so many views, so many ideas, so many different ideas.
Perfect. Christopher?
Yeah, and to bounce off that, I mean, especially with having such diversity in the team, it can definitely lead to, when you're trying to create your team culture or even on an organizational level, that's something that you can really piggyback on these different viewpoints, inputs, and really take, all of these different things and say, okay, well, what do we want to focus on? And then, of course, that might lead to some backlash. Let's say if the culture is not, fitting for everyone, but then it's more of a, how do you say, like then it needs to be more of an active decision, I would say, and say like, okay, we do these things because we want to, and it brings value to us, and that's why we are saying no to these other behaviors, right? So it's also a give and take of, when creating a culture, you're not just going to create a culture that's super wide and big, right? You also want to have something that people can resonate with, but also want something that you actively say, okay, this is what we're striving for. And that's why, unfortunately, we have to say no to certain behaviors. Maybe it works at other places, but it's not going to work here. So, and it's a balance, and I think it's a learning journey as well. As always, you're iterating on it. You're not going to get it perfect first time. So, yeah, that's what I like to add.
Amazing, great answers again. A lot of overlap again, a lot of shared experiences, it seems, when it comes to effective team collaboration in that context, particularly with diversity. Mehrnoosh, some interesting points there. So just to kind of finish off, the way I like to finish off is basically to try and give advice to aspiring developers or aspiring engineers that want to be tech leads. What advice would you give them when it comes to being collaborative members of the team, or one day maybe building out a collaborative team? What advice would you give them? Christopher?
Yeah, I think I can. Oh, sorry. I don't know if I took it from somebody. No. Yeah, no, but I just like to mention, like for myself, I think advice would be to, really develop the soft skills. I think, day-to-day work, you're going to definitely develop your technical skills and learn about new areas of the code and new systems and things like that. But really, also have in mind, okay, what are my soft skills? What are my, pluses? What are my strengths? And what are also my weaknesses? And how can I learn from, maybe management, maybe find a mentor, maybe there's other developers that are actually coaching in the team that you can see how their teaching is, It's also very, a good education to see what not to do. What do you see that is happening? You say, okay, well, I don't like this. This is not getting the same effects that we want. So things like that. So looking at your soft skills and developing those, by also looking at around you, and also maybe even, looking in a mirror and saying, okay, so what are my strengths and weaknesses?
Perfect. Great answer. Sotiris?
Yeah, I think definitely a good point. Yeah, overall, I think it's good also to have a vision. So see where you want to end up. And that's where I think you can start cultivating those soft skills that you need to develop. So if you decide early on where you want to get, that definitely really helps. And also, yeah, filtering behaviors, because as we mentioned before, the early years of your career, I think, are really defining. So if you're able to filter behaviors in those years and get the good things, but leave out the bad things, that can also shape you to grow into a good mentor and a good tech lead. I think it's also important to not be afraid to ask questions. either if it is in a meeting or if it is when developing a feature and needing to know the requirements, just going out, asking for things, challenging people on their belief, challenging people on the way that they think. And yeah, I think the technical skills, you will build them as you go, you will build them with experience. So indeed, I'll just piggyback on that. The soft skills, I think, are the most important, and putting the focus there, I think, can get you to a nice role, or where you want to get in the end.
Perfect. Take it away, Vlad, Mehrnoosh.
Yeah. So sorry.
Go ahead, go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely agree with all that is being said. Is like soft skills are very important, and you really want to understand where you stand, your weaknesses, and your strengths as well. It is really great to find a mentor, a person who could maybe look at you and tell you some of the issues, or some of the not maybe even issues, but like development paths that you can take where you can develop yourself. The person who can tell you things about yourself that you wouldn't see otherwise. It'll help a lot. And again, self-reflection as well. As you grow, just look what you're doing, what are you doing good, what are you doing bad, where you can improve. And yeah, again, soft skills.
Perfect. Again, over to you, Mehrnoosh.
So I just want to say that don't afraid to fail. As all of you mentioned, it's not something that's easy to do, creating a collaborative, effective collaboration inside a team. And it's not obviously a thing that's gonna happen one night. It's one night. So I had this experience that I tried to create a more collaborative culture inside the team, and I was really frustrated. And back then I had the chance to have a mentor, and when I bring my experience to him, he said to me, that's okay, but it's not a thing that's going to happen in a short amount of time. It's not a sprint, it's actually a marathon, and you should iterate over and do it over until you reach the thing that is the culture that is you're looking for. So don't afraid of failing in creating that culture, because it's part of the process. So the challenges, the drawbacks are part of the process of creating a better or more effective culture inside.
Perfect. Again,
if I may, I would like to add one more thing that just came to me as we went.
please.
I think continuous learning is also a very important thing, and there is a finite amount of things that you can learn in your day-to-day or your interactions with your colleagues or your friends. But watching podcasts, watching, I don't know, seminars, conferences, all those can show you new methodologies, show you new way of doing things. Also in tech, because tech is changing very fast, but also in working with people and guiding people and growing people as well, helping them develop, helping them reach their goals as well. You can find a lot by continuous learning and keep growing there.
Fantastic. Again, some amazing points, some great advice. It's ultimately why I like to do these roundtable events, is to hopefully help some developers, some engineers out there, give them some advice and learn from guys like you. So on that, are there any final thoughts, anything you'd like to add on the topic or in general? No? All good? Well, I think it's been an excellent discussion. I'm sure we've only just scratched the surface with most of these things. I'm sure we could talk all day about a lot of these topics, but I think we've definitely done the topic justice there, and I've learned a lot personally. Hopefully you guys have learned from each other and shared ideas, etc. So yeah, thank you very much for taking part, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much.